country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest they would be much less restrained. Those who suggest that the Gaza violence has anything to do with the location of the American embassy are sorely mistaken. Rather, the violence comes from those who reject the existence of the State of Israel in any location.
They've got the United States Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, yesterday at an emergency session of the Security Council called for by the country of Kuwait after 60 Palestinians were killed the day before in that standoff between Gaza and Israel. Alan Dershowitz was actually in Gaza last week. He also met with Benjamin Netanyahu the last couple of days, and he joins us live from Tel Aviv. Professor, thank you very much for joining us. You know, Israel has been painted by the media as have been the aggressor in this.
Well, that's the Hamas tactic. It's called the dead baby strategy. You use children and women, you deliberately put them on the front lines, you make it impossible for Israel to defend itself without occasionally killing a woman or a child or an elderly person. And every time Israel accidentally kills somebody like that, Israelis grieve, Israel loses, Hamas cheers and celebrates because that's exactly what they want. They want the media to show the body count. They want the media to show the dead baby, even though Israel tried everything in its power to avoid civilian casualties. Ambassador Haley was absolutely correct when she said that every one of those deaths is attributable to Hamas and that every country in the Western world would have done exactly the same. Look, I was down there in Gaza. I met with people from the kibbutzim. I met with the soldiers. They are terrified about 40,000 people with arms and with Molotov cocktails breaking down the fence, murdering Israeli children, taking hostages and taking people who they can then exchange for prisoners. Israel did exactly what America is doing, and the world ought to condemn Hamas and also the media that incentivizes and encourages Hamas to do this by reporting in such a biased manner.
Yeah, unfortunately, we see that all too often today. What the media is reporting shows a much different reality from what's actually going on the ground. Professor, you met with Bibi Netanyahu, as Steve said. What did you two talk about yesterday? What did he say?
Well, he is desperately trying to figure out ways to reduce the number of casualties because he knows, and everybody knows, that every time Israel inadvertently kills an innocent person, it loses. It loses the moral high ground. It loses among its own people. And yet the media encourages this, and he's trying to develop non-lethal ways of doing this. And there are many in the works, but they will take some time. We also talked about, you know, the Iran deal. We talked about the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem. I was there. It was a great event. The embassy should have been moved to Jerusalem 70 years ago. Every country but Israel had the right to name its own capital, but for years, America would not allow Israel to name its capital. Finally, they've done that, and that was a good thing.
And Alan, there's a lot of people here was pretty stunned that they're criticizing Ivanka for smiling during the opening of the embassy while there's riots on the Gaza border. I find that unthinkable and totally distasteful that they would say you can't smile at this historic event when you're representing America.
Well, I smiled. Joe Lieberman, who was sitting next to me, smiled. People both from all sides of the political spectrum smiled. It was a great event. It was a historic event. Finally, America recognizes that Jerusalem has been and always will be Israel's capital. It was a wonderful event. Obviously, many of us were thinking about the tragedies occurring in Gaza and in Syria. I was also up at the Syria border. I was at the barbed wire. I could hear the bombs going off just miles away. I was just 100 yards away from the Iron Dome, which stopped rockets from Iran coming and killing Israeli civilians on the Golan. Israel faces enemies all over. It was about time there was a celebration in Jerusalem, in West Jerusalem, which is the Jewish neighborhood of Jerusalem, finally moving the embassy there. It was the right decision by President Trump. It was the right event. The event was wonderful, and I'm glad Ivanka smiled, and I'm glad Jared Kushner gave a wonderful speech talking about how this doesn't reduce the prospects for peace. It only makes the prospects of peace greater, because there's now an incentive on both sides to come to the bargaining table. The Palestinians could have their own capital in East Jerusalem, but they can't get a state unless they come to the bargaining table. And I hope they will finally not miss another opportunity to miss an opportunity, as they did in 1938, 1948, 2000, 2001, 2008. They never come to the bargaining table. They're not going to get a state through violence, through Security Council resolutions, through BDS. They're going to get a state by coming and negotiating, and I hope they do that.
And now with Hamas.
Well, nobody knows the topic better than Alan Dershowitz. He was there for the festivities a couple of days ago, joins us live from Tel Aviv. Professor, thank you very much.
What an experience.
Have a great day.
Thank you
in
so
Israel.
much. All right, a lot going on this morning. Jillian Mealy with some headlines. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning to you at home as well. Let's get you caught up on some of the stories. Maybe you're just waking up that you missed overnight. A candidate for governor is hitting the campaign trail in a bus, but this bus isn't like anything you've ever seen.
Hi, I'm Michael Williams, and boy, do we have some exciting news to you. We have our bus tour ready to go, but it's not going to be one of those pansy political bus tours. We've got the deportation bus. We're going to implement my 287G deportation plan that's going to fill this bus with illegals to send them back to where they came from.
Well, that's Georgia State Senator Michael Williams pitching his immigration agenda. He hopes it will help his case in next week's primary. A black Trump supporter is verbally attacked at his local cheesecake factory for wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Eugenio Joseph says he was dining at the restaurant in Miami when he was threatened by multiple employees. They eventually left, only to run into police waiting outside. Cheesecake Factory issuing an apology, telling Fox News, quote, "No guest should ever feel unwelcomed in one of our restaurants, and we are taking this matter very seriously. The individuals involved in the incident have been suspended pending the results of our investigation." Eugenio Joseph joins us live with his response to the apology in the 8 o'clock hour. Oh boy, do you remember the dress that totally divided the internet? Well, now there's another new debate setting social media on fire. Listen.
Laurel. Laurel. Laurel.
All right, I'm not kidding, because people have been tweeting me all morning. A lot of people hear Yanny. Others, like myself, hear Laurel. Experts say that if you play the recording at a frequency with more bass, then you're likely to hear Laurel. If there's less bass, you'll hear Yanny. What do you hear? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. You can tweet us at Fox and Friends. If you tweet, I'm telling you, there's thousands of tweets going on right now. I hear Laurel as well.
Who hears Yanny? Oh, producer in our ear just said Yanny. What on
Judge
earth?
Napolitano heard Yanny earlier this morning. Kim Walker, who's on our Fox and Friends first staff, heard Yanny. I don't know. I don't hear it, but
Let's just listen.
Laurel. Laurel.
Toba, can you switch some things around to make it sound like Yanny?
Laurel.
Make it.
Are we all just living in different worlds?
It's Laurel.
Laurel.
right? I don't know. I'm telling you, people, hundreds if not thousands of people are tweeting me this morning
Okay,
saying
does
they hear Yanny.
anybody hear Yanny? If so, email us, friends@foxnews.com or Facebook.